Art is the fundamental spice of life that makes our living rewarding and personable. Music brings communities together, aids in cultural diversity, and at times can make hard to talk about topics more accessible to the masses. Tattoos can be used as bold expressions of one's interests and brandish their individuality, with fashion doing much the same. Writers can weave complex narratives that can exist in the cultural zeitgeist centuries after the original author has passed on. Simply put, art is of non-negotiable importance. Yet, if this media is as important as I've made it out to be, why do we fall so short so often? Why do hours of work fail to reach their end? According to the Synergy Whisperer, 97% of people who start to write a book never finish it. That means for every 1,000 people who start a book, only 30 actually complete it. In addition, only 12% of the people who write a book actually publish it. Why do people who set out to write or draw or sing, create or invent so seldom find a conclusion? Why do these projects never find an end? Firstly, to properly delve into this topic, we must first look at the myriad of reasons to start a project in the first place, be it out of curiosity, exploration, or a profound passion that entices one. Yet regardless of reason, each individual simply started because they wanted to. Each individual had an innate calling to try. Yet somewhere along the road to learning, we stop. Again, there are reasons for this. Maybe a lack of time, maybe it wasn't what you thought it would be, or maybe you decided to embark on a different project. Yet I propose that for many of us, there is a deeper, more damaging reason that has been leading us astray. Within each of us is an artist, and deeper within is a brutal critic, holding creativity hostage behind a wall of fear. Fear of rejection, self-doubt, compromise, and lack of control. This topic of finishing projects is very personal to me, as it may be to many of you. Each time I look through my computer files or read on my notepad, I'm reminded of the many projects I have quit on or even failed to start. Many of the projects I found in the graveyard had months of work put into them, yet regardless of passion, I seem to find myself always unable to finish. For me, it was a fear of social neglect and rejection, more so for my large-scale projects where I felt my efforts would amount to no reception. Phrases such as, "nobody will ever see this," or "why should I put in the effort for nothing in return," would plague my creative mind. If others can write better, sing better, draw better, then why should I try? I can imagine that I'm not alone in these thoughts. I cannot deny the logic behind them, which makes them impossible to put out of my mind. There will be a better drawer, there will be a better writer, and there will be a better singer, but this is your own self-critic destroying you. Let me propose an alternative. I love curry. It is in my top 3 favorite foods, behind fried chicken and sushi. However, my girlfriend is not a fan at all. I can ask her to eat it over and over again in attempts to get her to like it. However, she will not. It's a personal preference, everybody has it. But when I ask the question of, is curry delicious? We would both give 2 different answers, both correct to our own perception. In the same way, when you look at your art, you may hate it. You may think it is unworthy or bad, but its perception is subjective. If you think something is bad, it does not mean that the world at large does the same. With saying that, there will always be someone better than you, but that is a shared perception, not a true one. A masterful lyricist that is held in high regards may feel their writing is flawed compared to that of an opera singer's booming melody. Say 2 authors meet in a bar, and they both feel their work isn't as good as the others. So they both decide not to finish their novels because the other guys will be better. We can see this all the time on social media. The comparing and self-deprecation is absurdity. So how do we break this cycle of comparing? Well, I say, since others' perception of your work and one's own perception of others' work is out of their control, one must refocus on what they can control. I propose finish your art. Finish your song, finish your novel, and find satisfaction that you have climbed this mountain. Bad and good should be removed from your self-critic's lexicon, since they are subjective and harmful. I couldn't find the exact quote, but during one of Brandon Sanderson's lectures, he answers a student's question of how to become a famous published author. He says finish a book. He expands on this by saying that between a pool of people who say they want to be a published author and a pool of people who have finished a novel, which would be more likely to succeed in their goal? Secondly, he asks the student if their goal is to become an author or to be a famous published author, stating that if you want to be an author, you just have to write a book, a feat more easily said than done. I really enjoy this answer because it serves a dual purpose. First is a blatant statement that says you cannot control that, so instead refocus your goals on what you can control. An artist can choose when they start a project, what a project is, and when that project ends. When you have finished a project, then you have finished a significantly more important step than anything else. If you want to be an author, then write a book. Good or bad, it does not matter because those concepts are subjective, and therefore you cannot control that. Look at the Five Nights at Freddy's cookbook. I think it's an affront to man, yet I am certain someone will look upon this with the same eyes a mother would tenderly look upon her newborn child. This is an incredibly important step for creatives to take. However, it seems largely forgotten. Look at your own goals and find ways to set goals towards total control and conclusion. For example, I will make 10 YouTube videos instead of I will get 100 views. Since you cannot control whether or not your video will perform well on the platform, this goal is a false promise put upon oneself. You can even rework this goal into a position of totality by stating, I will show this video to 100 people. Although the results of 100 views are the same, the one who says, I will show this to 100 people will not rely on the factors outside of their control and therefore, if committed to reaching a conclusion, has a fundamentally better chance of reaching their goal. More examples may include the following. Change I will get into Yale into I will study preparatory material for 1 hour every day after school. Change I will be a successful artist into I will fill a page in my sketchbook every day. Progress is slow and painful even, but it is not directly tied to being good or bad. Instead, it is pushing you into the direction you yourself want to be in. You cannot always force outcomes the same way you cannot force relationships. But when you focus on what you can control and work towards those goals, you build the foundation to bring you closer to a desired result. Secondly, it was a reminder that I cannot compare myself to others because yes, there are millions of better artists than me, but by finishing a piece, I can put myself in a position to reframe my perception of my social standing. Imposter syndrome is a bitch that will snarl and drag you down. But I'm here to tell you that I've found a trick that helps. Simply find what you do and break it down to its basic components. Something like, I have animated a bouncing ball and therefore I am an animator. Again, this is not a question about being good or bad. Instead, it is about a question of being. This is a lesson in I do, therefore I am, a play on the original Latin phrase cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Back to Sanderson's original answer of how to become a published author. His answer of finish a book introduces the idea that once one does something, they become titled in that field. One who writes a book is an author. And by completing that task, you have distinguished yourself from the prior group of people who wanted to be authors. This helped me because it showed statistically sound proof in constructed identities. If there are 900 million people whose goal it is to write a book, what group of people would be the most likely to reach their goal? Those who want to write a novel, those that have written a few chapters, or those that have finished a book. Like a staircase, each step brings you closer to the summit. In this regard, it is similar to the first reading of Sanderson's answer. The primary difference is one is a task on physical goals, and the other is a mental reframing of one's identity by the finalization of one's art. Sanderson's answer really resonated with me, and it helped me to overcome hurdles in my own creative journey. This idea that some of my own goals were poisoning my own mentality and tearing me apart was very interesting and terrifying. Fantastical aspirations such as I will have a Hollywood movie based around a book that I have yet to even write, or I will have a massive studio with tons of art supplies and different mediums. They occupied my mind instead of any actionable goals to achieve these grandiose ideas. It is okay to have fantastical aspirations, but it is not okay to believe in delusion if you are not taking actionable goals towards it. There was a fear of external validation or lack thereof that made me petrified. I would halt projects because I felt like my attention should be diverted into growing an audience, but then again I had nothing to show a potential audience because I was never able to finish anything because I thought it would be wasted because I didn't have an audience. And so the cycle continued. It's easy to see how this downward spiral could absolutely ruin someone whose identity was so bound in their craft. In my mind, I was without purpose without my art because I could not see the good I provided by simply being me. I did not want to throw my art or writing or videos into a void, not out of fear of rejection, but out of neglect. I did not want my efforts to be for nothing, and Sanderson's lecture helped me to realize I was so fundamentally wrong in my reasoning. I should be doing these projects because I love doing them. I love the result, and I don't need to care about anything that comes after. The grave of failed projects are not shameful. They are not failures or regrets that I turned my back on. They are beneath me as my foundation, a reminder that they have reason for being. I recognize them, each one personal and close to my heart. Last year, I gave up on my biggest project ever after a very intimate talk with my father in Kyoto. I felt as though I'd failed myself because I was not successful. My art shop sales plummeted, and I was losing money and found myself unable to support it, so I gave it up. I was not proud of my work. I was not proud of my art. I was not proud of myself. Since it never found an audience, I assumed that it was not worth seeing. I had given it the college try, and it had failed. It wasn't until shortly after the trip that I had closed my art shop that I got accepted into a local art gallery. And even then, my happiness wasn't there because the idea of what success was so plastered into my brain that this outcome for me was suboptimal. My view of myself and my artwork was damaging, and a lifelong goal of getting into an art gallery was ruined by my own self-criticism. This is how I thought for my entire life, that my identity was with how others viewed my work, but I was wrong. If you've ever felt this way before, it sucks. It almost feels like your happiness is locked behind a lottery scratch ticket that is more prone to take your money than to pay out. Joy should come from hard work and the payoff that comes with it. Finishing your project, even if it makes no sense to you, will always be better than not knowing. Success is not a singular definition, so seek completion of yourself. Start those projects that you have wanted to. Finish that novel you started years ago that you didn't think would be good enough. There are 8 billion magnum opus that need to be shared. 8 billion strokes of brilliant individuality that will never be made unless we can silence our self-doubts. Finish your projects, even if you do not think they are going to go anywhere. I have attempted to change. Over the last year, I have begun college, a task I never imagined I would do. Ever. Really, never. I have worked on not needing external validation, and I have learned that my past projects are not my failures. They are not useless, and they deserve to be remembered, even if not achieved. I learned to observe the traits. Oh, this is a long-ass one. I learned to observe the traits I wanted to adopt in these paragons of success that I aspired to be like, and created actionable goals to obtain those traits instead of grasping for my subjective view of success. That's a hefty sentence. Well, I wanted to be a YouTuber, so damn it, I sat down and I made this video. And now I am a YouTuber. I wanted to draw, so I drew what I wanted, and now I am an artist. I wanted to be a writer, so I wrote. And I still write. Even though no one reads or bats an eye, I will pour my soul into every single page until I am withered and drained, because this is not for you, it is for me. I have found some semblance of peace and satisfaction in finishing my works. Whew. If you have made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you dearly. I'm just a little guy, kind of just doing little guy things, but this was a very, very emotional for me to do because I do struggle extraordinarily with external validation, and even now I am making a note to people who I don't even think will be there. So if you have made it here, thank you. This is great. It's probably just gonna be my friends and family, so hi friends and family. I would like to post more. I would like to keep people informed about my college experience or things that I'm learning or doing, or just making more things about, this. So if there's tonal differences in my future uploads, don't expect all my videos to be like this. This is just for me to get a lot of stuff off my chest and hopefully be able to move forward in the next couple of years with new and exciting projects and not feeling like I'm tied down to these past ones. I am planning to make a part 2 to this because I have so many unfinished projects that I would like to bring forward and talk about so that they can rest easily in their graves. So I I will probably record that first so they can kind of go out at similar times, but go check that out. Thank you so very, very much. It's good to be back. No more pseudonyms. My name is Jace Robinson.